future baby.
From the light of days remembered burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion lead to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the stories of our living brings a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice built by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Virtual Worship with the Unitarian Universalist Church of Silver Spring. I'm Bruce McConaughey, today's worship associate, and my pronouns are he, him, and his. I'm delighted to introduce our guest speaker this morning, the Reverend Eric Meter, is a lifelong Unitarian Universalist. He identifies as he, him, and his. After serving congregations in California, New York, and Ohio, he now serves the Olympia Brown Church in Racine, Wisconsin. We're glad Reverend Eric can share his preaching gifts with us this morning on Reverend Kristen's Sunday off. This month, our theme for worship is commitment. This morning, we'll reflect on how we can best bring our values into the next chapters of our living with and thriving with each other, despite COVID-19 and the other challenges that may come our way. I'm glad all of us are here together, taking advantage of the ways we can connect across distances and difference in community. I'd also like to welcome anyone who's joining us for the first or second time. Jim Street is our welcoming captain this morning and would be glad to answer your questions in the chat. Jim will also be available during virtual coffee hour after the service. If you are watching live, you can log into Google to participate in the chat in real time. To help protect privacy, comments will not be available for later playback, but during the service they are very public, so please keep that in mind. Also, please note that the live chat has certain safety features to prevent disruptive comments, so you won't be able to post special characters or complete web addresses. American Sign Language interpretation is available in a separate Zoom room for those of you who are deaf or hard of hearing. If you need help finding that link, please ask in the chat or email vstechsupport@uucss.org to get the link. In a moment, everyone will be invited to light our flaming chalices. So now is a good time to go and get a chalice, a candle, or even a flashlight, so you can join in kindling the flame of community. But first, let's take a moment to thank all of those who have made today's service possible. Please join me in the words on your screen as we light our chalices and reaffirm our congregational commitment. May this light warm our hearts with love and caring and guide us in the ways of truth. As we gather here for worship, we pledge ourselves to the endless search for truth. To the right of each to believe as mind, heart, and conscience dictate, to accept the responsibilities this freedom commands, and to implement our belief in the essential worth and dignity of every human being. May it be so. Now let's join together in singing our song of exaltation. The words to the song will appear on your screen.
Good morning. Our invocation is adapted from one by Gretchen Haley. It starts here, in this moment, in this breath, in the beating of your heart, the healing, the hunger, the hope, the courage, the commitment, the drawing out of a new day. It begins now in the imagination, in this story we weave together, in this song we sing, in this prayer we weave into being from our hearts to our lips, from our hands to our life, our shared life. It starts here with thanksgiving, forgiveness, and humble confession that we could be wrong. This promise to keep learning, to keep trying, to keep our sense of humor, to keep close this knowing that we are all in this together. Come, let us begin. Come, let us worship together.
Gather the Spirit, harvest the power, our separate fires will kindle one flame. Witness the mystery of His love, our trials in this life appear all the same. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then, gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again. Gather the Spirit of heart and mind, seeds for the sowing are laid in store, nurtured in love and conscience refined, with body and spirit united once more. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then, gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again. Gather the Spirit growing in all, drawn by the moon and fed by the sun, winter to spring and summer to fall, the chorus of life resounding as one. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then, gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again.
Our story today is titled After the Fall, How Humpty Dumpty Got Back Up Again, by Dan Santat. My name is Humpty Dumpty. This was my favorite spot, high up on the wall. I know it's an odd place for an egg to be, but I loved being close to the birds. Then, one day, I fell. I'm sort of famous for that part. Folks called it the Great Fall, which sounds a little grand. It was just an accident, but it changed my life. Fortunately, all the king's men managed to put me back together. Well, most of me. There were some parts that couldn't be healed with bandages and glue. After that day, I became afraid of heights. I was so scared that it kept me from enjoying some of my favorite things. I walked past that wall every day, and I would think about climbing that ladder again. I really missed the birds and being high above the city, but I could never do it because I knew that accidents can happen. Eventually, I settled for watching the birds from the ground. It wasn't the same, but it was better than nothing. Then, one day, an idea flew by. Making planes was harder than I thought it would be. It was easy to get cuts and scratches, but day after day, I kept trying and trying until I got it just right. My plane was perfect, and it flew like nothing could stop it. I hadn't felt so happy in a long time. It wasn't the same as being up in the sky with the birds, but it was close enough. Unfortunately, accidents happen. They always do. I almost walked away again, but then I thought about all the time I'd spent working on my plane and all the other things I'd missed. I decided I was going to climb that wall. But the higher I got, the more nervous I felt. I didn't want to admit it, but I was terrified. I didn't look up. I didn't look down. I just kept climbing one step, one rung at a time, until I was no longer afraid. Maybe now you won't think of me as that egg who is famous for falling. Hopefully, you'll remember me as the egg who got back up and learned how to fly. Thank you.
At the Unitarian Universalist Church of Silver Springs, as well as in many other of our congregations, we take time each week to share the most important pieces of our lives with one another. Each and every Sunday, we have the opportunity to learn of the greatest joys and sorrows in other people's lives and to share our own. We do this because pain shared is decreased and joy shared is doubled. Furthermore, bearing witness to one another's lives is always a sacred act. If you are worshiping with us live, I invite you to type your joys or sorrows into the chat box during the music to come. Everything shared in that chat box is public during the live stream, so please keep that in mind as you decide what you'll share. And if you need additional support, please send an email to layministers@uucss.org, and either they or Reverend Kristen will be in touch with you. And you don't have to be a lay minister to reach out to someone whose joy or sorrow touches your heart. So please make note of those people you may wish to call or send a card or email to later this week. And if you are watching this as a recording later, I invite you to take this time to hold your joys or sorrows in your heart and to lift up in prayer and loving regard all those who are in need. Let us now open our hearts to the joys and sorrows this gathered community has to share.
Please join me now in a moment of prayer and meditation with these words from Sarah Lawal. Spirit of life and love, holy mystery, how do we pray for hope? How do we bow down or look up or sit in silence or walk among the trees to make hope come alive when it feels so far beyond our grasp? We breathe, we look within, we listen, we reach out. We hold in the depths of our heart that knowing that hope is a gift we cannot destroy. It is the heartbeat, always stirring within us. It is the imagination, awakening to us the possibility. It is the unfolding of faith in action. May we hold on to hope and carry it for one another and for this broken and hurting world. May we be vessels of comfort and compassion. May we be vessels of peace and justice. May we be vessels of hope and healing, and may love prevail. In the name of all that is holy, we pray. Amen.
There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more hope somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more peace somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more joy somewhere.
Our reading this morning is an excerpt from Galway Kinnell's poem, Flying Home. Can I try to express that love is hard, that while many good things are easy, true love is not? Because love is, first of all, a power, its own power, which continually must make its way forward from transcending union always forward into difficult day. And as the plane descends, it comes to me in the space where tears stream down across the stars, tears fallen on the actual earth where their shining is what we call spirit. That once the lover recognizes the other, knows for the first time what is most to be valued in another, from then on, love is very much like courage. Perhaps it is courage, and even perhaps only courage.
Let me begin by thanking Reverend Christian for the opportunity for me to be with you today. I'm thrilled to be with all of you this morning and offer greetings from the Olympia Brown Unitarian Universalist Church of Racine, Wisconsin. You see the pipes of the church organ behind me, and I stand at the very podium Reverend Brown preached from when she served the congregation. Now, if you recall your UU church history, you'll remember that Reverend Brown was the first woman ordained in our nation with the support of her denomination, the then Northern Universalist Association. Yet before I begin this talk in earnest, I hope you'll allow me one more point of introduction, a personal one. My mother-in-law, Blanche Jackson, who was Nana to me and many, many more, came to the United States from her native Jamaica when my wife Anne was a very young girl. Over the years, several of Nana's sisters made the same trip, most of whom settled in the Metro D.C. area. Early last month, Nana passed away at the venerable age of 103. She had an amazing run and was ready to say goodbye at the end. Well, Nana wanted a memorial at her Pentecostal church back in Ohio. She chose to be buried next to her sisters and other family members at the plot in D.C. And where exactly is that cemetery? Silver Spring, Maryland. Because of my work, I wasn't able to attend or be part of her graveside service, but being with you now, even virtually, helps me feel a bit closer to Nana. The coincidence certainly wasn't planned, but still, I feel compelled to say thank you. This morning, I want to talk about how we as people and congregations can do like Humpty Dumpty did in the story from earlier in our time together this morning. Namely, how we can best summon the courage to fly after taking such an impactful fall. That's the metaphor of it. What I mean by that is that this morning I want to talk to you about how we might grieve what we've been through and what we're still living through during this time of pandemic, with the need for social distancing and other changes in how we move through our days. This last year, these last 12 plus months have challenged all of us, and we're not through these woods yet. For the most part, we're managing as best we can separately, person by person, family by family. But what about us as members of larger communities? Hopefully, the time is not too far off when we can come together in person, share our stories in the company of one another, take hold of one another's hands again, to share a laugh together, and perhaps a tear or two as well. Our denomination has stepped up to the challenge and offered worship services for our congregations to use, as well as providing sound guidance on safely returning to in-person gatherings that cover daily new cases, local infection rates, local rates of test positivity, number of contract tracers hired per county,
and local ICU headroom. I won't go into all the details of their guidance. All of it is readily available at uua.org. What we know is that small groups will be able to resume in person first. Sadly, the most dangerous thing we can do is to sing in close proximity to one another. If your choir is like any of those I've had the privilege of working with and listening to, it's full of people whose spiritual practice is to sing with others in community. They've been hit hard this year. Yes, this is a shameless plug. Be especially kind to your choir members. They deserve it. Moving on, I'm sure there's a group at UUCSS looking into how and when you might best reopen, most safely reopen. I'm part of that work where I serve. We have our work cut out for us. And as older adults are vaccinated before younger ones, we need to guard against favoring one group over another, thereby segregating our communities more than they already are. As the religious educator Leanne Palmaville says, my concern isn't with small groups meeting while wearing masks, but rather that there's a huge gap between those who are likely to feel safer now, mostly older folks who've been vaccinated, and families with younger children who are much further down every list. Palmaville continues, I'm wary of opening things up for those who feel safe, because it will be so long until it's truly safe for younger people and kids especially. I don't love the message that sends about inclusion, especially when kids' programs and families are typically undervalued in our communities already. We have to make the difficult decisions that are before us as members of communities of faith. No one person, no one group is going to get everything they want. The sacrifices we have had to make are not over yet. That said, once we can come together again to meet in person, the sacrifices we have made will be proven to be in the service to the welfare of all. And in that, to the degree that we have made those sacrifices, we will be able to feel deep-seated and justified pride. That said, looking forward, we have to expect that our sanctuaries will be less full in the months and years to come. There are long-term changes from what we are experiencing now. People are going to opt for virtual worship instead of in-person celebrations for any number of reasons that are valid. More than ever, we are going to have to practice the art of assuming good intentions. Furthermore, a result of our ethic of respect and safety will likely mean that our congregations may be among the last civic institutions to open fully. We need to be prepared for that and remain committed to our values in order to stay the course, in order to keep the whole of our communities as safe as possible. It's simply called respect. While we will continue to follow the science, we also need to acknowledge the difficult fact that the science is still developing. Like so much in life, we're learning as we go. And there's one other factor I need to highlight amid all of this. Hope you don't mind if I tell you a little story. A few weeks ago, I was talking with church members about how and when we might reopen. When we came to the end of what we knew and could imagine about protocols and indicators,
we began talking about how we might celebrate as a congregation being back together once again. Because we are going to need that celebration. All of us are going to need to come together and feel the joy. Voices during that meeting could be heard saying things like, "We should let all the children wear their pajamas that first Sunday back. Heck, why only the kids? Would the adults go for it? Would the minister?" That's not going to happen, but not for the reasons they might expect, at least not for all the reasons they might expect. During the conversation, you see, it hit me. We need to laugh, yes, but we also need to cry. I remembered a passage in a novel I read years ago that moved me to tears then and still stops me in my tracks today. The novel is Günter Grass's The Tin Drum, a reflection on war-torn Poland from the eyes of Oscar, a soul who grows old in the body of his young boyhood self. The scene is post-World War II Gdansk, then called Danzig, a large industrial city on Poland's Baltic coast. Oscar is working at a jazz club named the Onion Cellar. In the post-war city and following a long Nazi occupation, the secret of the club was this. The proprietor placed at every seat a cutting board, a knife, and an onion, all covered with a cloth napkin. When everyone was seated, the proprietor theatrically called out, "Ready, set, go," inviting folks to uncover their onions and start peeling and slicing them. Some did so awkwardly, being unaccustomed to kitchen rituals. Others lit into their onions with the grace born only of long experience. But before long, all had tears streaming down their faces. What's the word? Catharsis. The bodily reaction to the aerosolized onion juice, or whatever the specific scientific cause that prompts our tears, these tears that were shed in that little onion cellar bar had long been held within. The losses, injustice, and countless hardships of war, survivor's guilt, hopes and lives crushed, and for what? For all this and more, those theatrical characters cried and cried together. In the words of not so young anymore Oscar, a true community formed when to your left or right, others from all fields were weeping with you. I know that Reverend Kristen led a Vespers service for you a few nights ago. I hope it was well attended. Well, I know that we all grieve in different ways, and in different ways at different times in our lives. I also know that we have much to grieve about all that we've gone through this last year. There will be no armistice with this virus, no date on which victory can be declared. Instead, there will be booster vaccinations and a slow journey in which humans adapt and COVID-19 becomes finally like a flu or the common cold. Just over a month ago now,
Our denomination reissued guidance on returning to in-person gatherings. The conclusion puts it this way: as the pandemic continues to play out, we will continue to face uncertainty. The best we can do at any given time is to lean into our values, as well as draw on the gifts and wisdom of our own people. The wisdom of our own people. Like these words on what love really is by my colleague Jan Carlson Bull. Love is knotted and gnarled, like an old tree fighting in the wind, like branches too brittle for their own good, like roots that relentlessly inform how deeply we can trust and how freely we can forgive. That's the kind of tenacious love that will best serve us in the weeks and months to come. A generous love with deep-seated roots, able to trust and forgive ourselves and one another. We have lost much and many during these last 12-plus months. And as I said earlier, we're not out of the proverbial woods yet. But together, we can get there, with one another at our sides and our faith communities vibrant and welcoming to all. May it be so. Amen.
I now invite each and every person tuning into this service, whether live or at a later time, to make a financial offering to this congregation. Your offering today will help fuel the flame of this community and make our ministries and programs possible. But most importantly, making an offering will allow you to practice generosity, to contribute to a community that can do more good together than any of us can do alone. There are 3 ways you can make your financial gift to this congregation. The first is by downloading the Give Plus mobile app from Vanco to set up an account. The second way to give is by using your phone to text a message to 833-880-1363. And if the app or texting just don't work for you, the third way is to give by mailing a check directly to the church. All of the information you need for all 3 of these methods is on your screen now and will appear again toward the end of today's service. Every program, our different ministries, and all of the support and music and fellowship of this congregation is possible not because we charge people to participate, not because we attach a fee to all that we do. It's possible through our shared generosity. I hope you will join me in making an offering in thanks for all that UUCSS means to you. The offering will now be given and received with gratitude.
There at the table, with my head in my hands, column of numbers I just didn't understand. You said add these together, carry the 2. Now you can do this hard thing. You can do this hard thing. It's not easy, I know. I believe that it's so. You can do this hard thing. At a cold winter station, breathing into our gloves, to change me forever, leaving for God knows what. You carried my bags, you said, I'll wait for you. You can do this hard thing. You can do this hard thing. It's not easy, I know. I believe that it's so. You can do this hard thing. Late at night I called and you answered the phone. The worst it had happened. I did not want to be alone. You quietly listened. You said, we will see this through. You can do this hard thing. You can do this hard thing. It's not easy, I know. I believe that it's so. You can do this hard thing. Here we stand, breathless and pressed in hard times, hearts hung like laundry on backyard clotheslines. Impossible just takes a little more time. From the muddy ground comes a green volunteer. In a place we thought barren, new life appears. Morning will come whistling some comforting tune for you. You can do this hard thing. You can do this hard thing. It's not easy, I know. I believe that it's so. You can do this hard thing. You can do this hard thing. It's not easy, I know. I believe that it's so. You can do this hard thing.
May the gifts we have given fuel the flame of our commitment, empower us to serve out our mission, and give the life we share the shape of truth, love, and justice.
return. I know I can go on, and though the journey is long, the destination is near. The troubles wait out of return. I know I can go on. So brothers, take my hand, and sisters, sing my song. When hope awaits out of return, I know we will go on.
Please join me in the words of our chalice extinguishing. Carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again.
As we move into the conclusion of this time of worship and reflection, and with St. Patrick's Day just ahead, I will leave you with this traditional Celtic benediction. Deep peace of the running wave to you, deep peace of the flowing air to you, deep peace of the quiet earth to you, deep peace of the shining stars to you. May the spring to come warm your heart and your soul. May the depths of your faith and love be restored, and may what you say and do inspire hope in those whose journeys intersect with your own. This worship service is ended, and now our service begins. Go in peace, my friends. Go in peace.
I'm bound